So yeah, these are some of the implications I think I would like to share my experience with you guys.
Thank you so much. I can relate to what you shared because many years back I used to work for a visa company. I used to install those visas in remote locations of India, and I can still never forget. Actually, the hours I used to walk the visa to the particular signal inside satellite. 35,000 kilometers orbiting above the Earth surface, and take about 6-7 hours to make sure that you're using the spectrum analyzers to make sure that you have the best possible. And
ensuring in the line of sight of the wide view antenna is there in obstruction or not. Now these are quite easy, and on the plus side is you get instant notification from that AI enabled application. So the site engineers are confident about this solution. So that's
AI technology years back I would have probably done 7 or 8 visa installation and they are on which happen. Thank you. Let me move to the second round. Emerging trends that we're seeing in cloud computing. And yesterday when we had a chat, we talked about how with IoT and cloud converging, I know this is opening up a lot more opportunities, right? And it's definitely impacting businesses. So your thoughts on this, Aditya?
So thank you, Sunil. That's a great question. So what's most interesting about technology is how it starts with a buzz, and everybody is just talking about it. Everybody has a different definition about that technology. And then slowly and steadily you see it starting to become mainstream where everybody is adopting it. So it becomes a little bit easier for everyone to talk about it because you've kind of touched it, it's more tangible, it's more something you've used. And then eventually it ends up being commodity, sort of boring. You don't need to even define what it really means. So if I go in the reverse chronology, I always go back to the software era and the software boom. Today, none of us would be fascinated by filling a form and clicking the submit button. There was an era where that was a huge deal, and the idea of APIs revolutionized how we identify software. Then came cloud. So cloud today is mainstream. I think everybody here is using it in some form or the other, and it is affecting your life, whether you know it about it or not. I think blockchain is another very interesting technology we didn't discuss much, but there is somewhere in between being a buzz and a trend. So when you talk security, when you talk encryption, I think blockchain is supposed to be the way to go. And as more and more applications get redesigned, that will be a very critical element to how you define the security of it. If you further go a little bit towards the buzz side, then for me comes AI, right? So today everybody wants to talk about it, but the definitions of it vary a lot. Whether it's generative, whether it's reinforcement learning, whether it is linear regression, whether it's simple neural networks, everybody's still trying to figure out what they are, how to really use it, where to really use it, and more importantly, when not to really use it. And then probably you'll come into the definitions of edge and spatial computing. I think those are still yet to be harnessed to their true extent and true power. So I really think following the AI revolution, the power of edge and the power of spatial computing is something which will take us forward. So these are the 5 main trends that I see. Talking about how they converge, the best part about these trends is they are actually mutually exclusive. They don't really compete with each other. And in that extent, using them together really brings a multiplicative effect, not just additive. Every application needs scale, so there's cloud. Every application needs security, so there's blockchain. Every application where you need a little bit of intelligence, a little bit of translation, there comes AI. Any application that the data needs to be close to you, you want data security, data residency, there comes edge. So to that extent, all these technologies, they seamlessly integrate. They don't really cut across or create any conflict for any of us as we try and use them all together. So from a business's standpoint, it completely changes the way we think. I think businesses very quickly need to rethink what is digital transformation. It's no longer about software, it's no longer about code, it's more about how do you redesign and do the same thing but with a completely different experience.
So when you are creating these nodes, and then how sanctity is there, what is the sandbox environment that is required for the customers. So this varies from one customer to other customers. So for each customers you need to provide it. So edge computing or edge nodes in the cloud, in the edge data centers is much more important, much more useful, and it has a potential for providing that. Now coming back to the from the customer's point of view, when a cloud service provider is using the AI and other AI as a service, and I am providing my data and using the algorithms of the cloud service providers, my whole data has been exposed to the AI and other sophisticated algorithms. assurance need to be provided. The consumer will have a concern what is the data breach levels that are being adopted by the cloud service provider. Ultimately, the cloud service provider may go into some unethical practices. The assurance obviously is not being trusted by the customer. This assurance given by the cloud service provider. Now, the customer has to rely on the law enforcement agencies. Now, the law enforcement agencies and the regulatory framework that is being provided in the jurisdictional area. So, whether the law enforcement agencies are giving such a assurance and then such what you call the checks and balances in these cloud service providers, management of the cloud governance of each of these cloud service providers. That's a big challenge even for the very learned law enforcement agencies who are using sophisticated tools. When you are using the AI and these data science algorithms, it is very difficult when you are getting the data from the customers and how well it is being utilized and whether this type of data is being used for other applications and other vendors as well. So that is one more important. Now, the terms are coming of different hybrid cloud, private cloud, multiple jargon is coming out. Now, the customers' demands are also increasing day by day. Now, is there any cloud service provider which will create a different layer, for example, an aggregated layer on top of all the cloud service providers? Can I give a service from some cloud service providers who are using the AI algorithms, some people who are giving the edge cloud algorithm? So some of these issues are very, very important. Another most important is the sovereignty of the data. So many of the cloud service providers say that yes, I am providing the data localization and the data center, both DR and DC are all located within the jurisdictional area. But is there any foreign access? So that is one of the important when you are talking about the sovereignty of the data. Most of the law enforcement agencies are also relying on these things. I am from a company called Nixie CSC Data Services, and we are creating our own sovereignty data, sovereignty cloud, Indus Cloud, and also edge cloud. So different edge data centers in the next few years, we are planning to set up edge nodes in almost every district of this country, so that most of the blockchain applications, most of these emerging technology applications can be easily modeled into these, and most of the customers can come out with these applications. And also planning to have an aggregated plan of various cloud service providers and providing a complete service, bouquet of service to the customers. That is one of the important aspects.
See, I think in today's time, especially when we are talking about artificial intelligence and India being the most populous country in the world, and the roadmap of AI, especially, you can see the focus all the way from the top. There is a specific budget for AI this year to establish 3 centers of excellence. Countries, some of the largest education institutions are working. But I think if you look at it, we are still scratching the surface. For a country like India, I think we have a lot of responsibility, a big role to play, and we need to lead the way, at least moving forward, as more user applications. One is the technology, but how do you apply artificial intelligence, right? I think this is where I think India's role is more critical than the technology itself, the application of artificial intelligence. That's where I think, including how artificial intelligence can be used in farming or by farmers, healthcare, education. We have used to some extent in the smart cities, for example, especially in the surveillance aspect. So as Murthy again said about security, I think it's about, especially there is a significant concern on ethics, on how artificial intelligence can be used, can be applied. We already are suffering with a lot of cyber issues today, and now as the technology gets more complex, more wide, with edge, IoT, you have entry points everywhere, and now if you apply artificial intelligence on top of it, it's just you're compounding the problem. So I think this is where I think India has a significant amount of role to play and be an example to the rest of the world in terms of application of the use cases of artificial intelligence, because I think we have the most complex use cases compared to some of the more structured countries. So that's one aspect in terms of the application. Now, when it comes to, okay, artificial intelligence is going to be a huge ecosystem. Now, if you apply Make in India to it, from a digital India, Make in India perspective, how do we have a role there? We need to make sure that the components that are required and the technology that is required for artificial intelligence we need to become again digitally independent in terms of manufacturing these components, all the way from GPUs, semiconductors, that plays a role in enabling artificial intelligence. All of this, there's a lot of focus. I think in the next 2, 3, 5, 10 years, this evolution needs to accelerate to build an ecosystem that is holistic to develop, to support this artificial intelligence ecosystem. If you look at it, right, I mean, data center globally, I think in the next 25 years, this is just an estimate, I think globally, 25% of the power in the world is going to be consumed by only data centers. Right? So that's going to be huge, and a lot of this is going to be driven by artificial intelligence moving forward.
All kind of data streams moving forward, right? So you see video streams coming onto the cloud, you will see basic data from the engine, location, and so on going transferred to the cloud. So encryption plays a major role in kind of ensuring security and localizing the data environment plays a major role.
Thank you, Sudeep. So let me move to Rajesh. The last question: impact of generative AI as it relates to cloud. Rajesh, you can limit your response to about 2 to 3 minutes.
Thank you. Yeah, so there is a buzzword around this generative AI. We need, I would quickly capture some of the key aspects of this generative AI. What is this? What is, why is it so much buzz around this technology? How distinct it is with respect to the other AI services that are available. So let's say, how is it different? So basically, if you go back the typical task of in text maybe, so you are doing text classifications, right? But the distinctive part of the generative AI is it is able to generate the text for you. It is able to generate image for you. It is generated from text to text, from text to image, image to image. All these generations are possible using these generative AI services. So, and this basically moving from artificial narrow intelligence to artificial general intelligence now. Narrow intelligence is used to target the specific applications and applications of use cases. But now AGI is targeting with this generative AI. We are targeting general set of services or applications that